When purchased and installed, the CenterPoint Ratios module gives business owners and managers a tool to track the overall financial condition of their operations over a selected period of time. It is dependent on the correct setup of account categories within CenterPoint. When a user creates a new account in CenterPoint, they need to assign it to an account type and to an account category. CenterPoint provides users with a basic set of account categories that they can use, as well as the ability to create their own account categories. The built-in set of account categories are defined properly. However, it is still possible to create an account in the wrong category, and that may skew the results of your ratios. Let's take a look at the setup of an account category as an example. So let's go to Setup and to Accounts and to Account Categories to do this. And I'm going to edit the account category called the Accounts Receivable category. When defining an account category, there's mainly three pieces of information that ratios might look at to determine whether or not that account needs to be included in the calculation of a ratio. One is the account type. Is it an asset, a liability, an equity account, or is it a revenue, cost of goods, or an expense type of an account? So what account type is it? Then for certain accounts, it might need to, or for certain account types, it might need to determine what class it is. So for assets, for example, might need to know whether it's a current asset or a long-term asset or a fixed asset that is depreciable. So the class would be important. And then finally, certain financial measures or ratios might need to know what a further subclass of that account. So for an example, there might be a ratio that includes accounts receivables accounts in its calculation, but not other current assets. So we also need the subclass to further define those. So you want to make sure that you're really careful when creating account categories that you're defining those properly. However, it is also possible that you do put an account in the wrong category. So as an example, if you take a current asset and you put it into a category that is meant for long-term assets, then it won't be included in the calculation of ratios that are meant for current assets. So you want to make sure that you're putting them into the proper categories. When Ratios is installed, you'll find Ratios underneath Reporting Tools and Ratios. And on the left-hand side, it's going to draw up a list of different ratios that are included with the CenterPoint Ratios module. And normally, if this was your first time into Ratios, you would be presented with a screen like this, which allows you to select your ratio options. Now, I've been in it before, so it didn't bring that up, but I will show you how to get back to this screen in just a moment. So the first thing you'll do is select which company you want to include in the analysis, or companies. If you happen to have multiple companies within your database, you can include more than one in the analysis. Then you'll choose your date range that you're including, and then the frequency in which you want that ratio to be calculated. You have the options of monthly, quarterly, or annually. I've chosen annually, and I'm going to click OK. If you want to get back to that screen to select a different date range or a different company, you can click on the first icon on the Ratios toolbar, and that will bring back up the Ratios option screen to make a different selection. On the left-hand side, you'll select which ratio you want to see. I've selected the current ratio. And on the right-hand side, it will show you a graph of that ratio. The y-axis of the ratio is going to show the value of that ratio. And then the x-axis is showing us the frequency points of that ratio. So how often I'm seeing that ratio being calculated. And you can change the order of that. So right now mine's going from year 2000 to year 2023. There is a icon on your toolbar that says reverse x-axis. And if I click on that, it'll change the order. So it puts it in reverse chronological order. And if I click on it again, it'll toggle back to, putting it in chronological order. On the right-hand side, you're going to see that ratio being graphed, and below is a button where you can click on a formula description. And the formula description will show you how that ratio is being calculated. So it's current assets divided by current liabilities, and it gives you a description of the ratio. So as an example, the current ratio gives you an indication of a company's short-term debt paying ability. It also is giving us a range in which we should be seeing that ratio, but that can change depending on the industry you're in. So you'll want to be able to compare this to any other industry averages for your industry. I'm going to click on the formula description to get rid of the description. So we're seeing the ratio in a graph format, but you can change what that graph looks like. There's different types of graphs, and for each type of graph, there's different styles. So I'm on a line graph right now, but I could change to a different style, such as a spline, which is more of a curved line. Or I can change the type of graph that we're using altogether. So for example, I can go to a pie graph, but certain types might not really be a good representation of that ratio. So in this case, the pie graph isn't necessarily one that I probably would have chosen for my current ratio. I also have bar graphs, and I also have area types of graphs that I can choose from. Now, I'm seeing this ratio in a graph representation, but if I want to see the actual calculation of the ratio, I can go to the right-hand side and I can change between the chart and a table. And now I'm seeing the actual calculation of that ratio. So what's the value that it calculated? If you want to investigate that further or drill down further into that calculation, you can open up that ratio on the left-hand side by clicking on the plus sign. And now I'm seeing the components that make up that ratio. So I'm seeing current assets and current liabilities. And if I highlight those, I see the value of those. So that for the accounts that it's included, I'm seeing the value of them. And I could open it up even further and see the different account categories that are being included with that ratio. And so I can see that it's including these other current assets, and it's also including cash. And there might be other account categories that it would be including. If they're not shown over here, it means one of two things: either that I don't have an account in that category, or that the value of the account is 0. So we'll close that up. And I'll go back to the current ratio, and I'm going to go back to the chart. You can print out this chart or print out this ratio by going ahead and go to the printer icon. You can select between printing the chart or printing the table. You can also export this. And if you click on the export icon, which is next to the print icon, you have the choice of exporting this out to a PDF, an HTML, an Excel, or an image file. And then finally, you do have the ability to put this ratio on your dashboard. So unless you've turned it off, when you first come into CenterPoint, you're going to see a dashboard that might have many different tiles on it. I'm going to bring mine over from a different screen. Might have different tiles on it showing you different values that you've chosen to be part of that dashboard. Okay, you can include the ratio on this dashboard. So that last icon on the toolbar will allow you to add it to the dashboard. So I'm going to click on that, and it tells me that the tile was saved. And now if I bring back up my dashboard by going to Reporting Tools and Dashboard, I'm going to see this ratio calculation on the dashboard. And I can still toggle between the chart and the table, so I can go back and forth between the chart and the table. But just keep in mind that this could be pretty small. So depending on how many tiles you have on your dashboard, it might not really give you much because it might just be too small to see it. Okay, you can make the dashboard a little bit larger by stretching it out. So I can, stretch out this screen a little bit more so that I see it a little bit better. But, if you have a lot of different tiles on your dashboard, that might not be something that, will give you a good representation of it because it's just too small to see.